Okay, well, so thank you very much for joining this session. It's an honor for me to moderate this session with these remarkable speakers today. So today with us, we have Magdalena Kogut, who is privacy and IPTech lawyer at Timelex and partner of the INCISIVE project. Susanna Aussó, head of AI at Salut Social Foundation and representative of the Catalonian AI program, and also partner of the INCISIVE project. And finally, Orduña, who is applications and systems engineer at la Fe Polytechnic University Hospital in Valencia, Spain. So we had a last-minute cancellation from Ricard Martínez due to academic reasons, but he has left us a video that we will share with you after the session. And on this video, he explains the challenges that they have identified in EUCAIM in terms of ethical, technical, and organizational governance, in defining the categories of data space interveners, the configurations of data space, and the anonymization and pseudonymization processes. So we will send you this because we don't have time now to see it, but after the event we will share it with you. So after a very brief presentation, we're going to start with the discussion. So Magdalena Kogut is an attorney at law at Timelex, a law firm in Belgium. She's specialized in IT, privacy and data protection, cybersecurity and intellectual property law. Magdalena has vast experience in handling with complex international and privacy projects, GDPR and e-privacy, and is involved in research and innovation projects funded by the European Union, such as INCISIVE as well. So Magdalena, could you please share with us what the legal and regulatory hurdles or barriers must healthcare providers overcome to ensure compliance with laws like GDPR when sharing their health data with medical researchers?
So first of all, thank you. Can you hear me?
I don't think so. Bottom again? No. It should be working now.
Hello? Can you hear?
Yes? Okay,
yes?
yeah, go
okay.
on.
So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation and for the introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here. I wanted to take this opportunity to dive a bit deeper into those challenges, the legal challenges that were mentioned in the previous sessions. So I prepared a slide. I'm not sure if we can see it. Okay. So it's been repeated that sharing data for health research is challenging because of legal and ethical requirements. So I wanted to show a bit more about what we mean by those requirements. And it's the first group of requirements is GDPR. And that has been mentioned, I think, also in the previous sessions. But we also have to be aware that GDPR, so Data Protection Framework, is not the only act that regulates this in the European Union. We also have national legislation that is put in place that makes it really difficult for the data providers from various countries to come to an agreement on some principles. So that is the first sort of group of laws that regulate sharing of data. But beyond just the data protection, we also have the question of ownership of data and whether data, health data in particular, can be owned as such. And that is an academic and theoretical discussion, but to put that into practice would be to ask what if we were to say that there is some kind of a right to data, what kind of a right would that be? Under civil law, ownership applies to material things. Data is immaterial, so we cannot talk about ownership in the civil law sense, but we can talk about, for example, data basis law. So there is a piece of legislation, a directive on databases that regulates laws, that regulates rights to databases. So it protects investment into putting together a curated data set. And that indeed could be one of those acts that we have to consider, whether the data providers, the hospitals have the right to somehow impose license terms on the use of their data. Another piece of legislation that is out there is Data Governance Act. That is a fairly new one. It came into force only in September. And it regulates, it tries to regulate, first of all, resharing of data by public institutions, but also tries to put some rules on so-called data intermediaries. So platforms or providers of services that would wish to commercialize and build business on building trades of data between the users of data and the data providers. And while most of our projects, I don't think, fall into that category, because we are not trying to make a profit of sort of selling data, to put it very colloquially, that regulation is out there, and we need to be aware of that. And finally, we've heard about the European health data space and the ambition to finally put a clear set of rules on how the data is going to be reshared. So that is in development, and I think all of our projects, INCISIVE, the project that I'm a part of in particular, we try to align with those principles and try to really observe where the framework will be going and try to anticipate what requirements will be put on the different providers and the users also. And finally, we have AI Act, again, another proposal that will put in place framework for example, documenting how how AI models are trained. So it is a very complex legal framework. It doesn't have a clear path for building ambitious projects like the ones that we've discussed. It doesn't have clear rules and steps outlined for us how to build a health data repository, but it regulates certain aspects of it. So when we were discussing and designing this data donation legal framework, so one of the results of the project, we had to look at all these different laws and try to align with them. And we put together some proposal of interpretation how we would like to allow the data providers to securely share the data, and how we would propose that the data users are able to use the data and commit to the privacy, to do it in a privacy-preserving way. So.
Thank you, Magda, for your legal perspective. So now we're going to move to the ethical requirements. So Susanna Aussó is the Secretary of the Catalan Program for the Promotion and Development of AI in Public Health System. Her background is technical, as she holds a degree in electronic engineering, another one in telecommunications engineering, and a master's degree in bioinformatics. She leads several European and national projects related to the implementation of AI solutions in health imaging. And her area of expertise is evaluation of AI algorithms, synthetic data, explainability, and trustworthy AI. So Susanna, could you please share with us from this technical perspective, what are the main challenges that you are coping with all these projects? And if you could provide some recommendation for a trustworthy AI, as Oliver commented previously on the other session.
Okay, thanks, Ana Belén. Well, from a technical perspective, I think we could classify ethical challenges based on different areas or sources of problems. First, problems caused by data, because our models learn from the data we provide, and if this data contains errors or biases, then the model will learn incorrectly, and this could discriminate. So this is the main problem from data. We have also problems that come from models, because if these models are not transparent and robust enough, then it's difficult to trust them. We have also problems that came from the safety, because there's a risk of intentional attacks, and this cause incorrect diagnosis, for example. And finally, problems regarding the accountability, because in the end we need to define who is responsible for the consequences derived from suggestions that made the AI model. So addressing all these challenges requires a multidisciplinary approach involving collaboration of data scientists, ethicists, healthcare professionals, legal experts, and policymakers. So that's what we've done in the framework of AI cluster. So the slide, please. Well, Dr. Oliver Diaz commented before, but I want to highlight the importance of this initiative. Professionals from all these areas of expertise and from all over the world are collaborating in this initiative called Future AI. The main objective, as Oliver said, is that to define concrete guidelines to facilitate the design, the development, and the validation of trustworthy AI following these 6 principles. Fairness, universality, traceability, usability, robustness, and explainability. So all these principles aim to address the issue that I commented before. So fairness refers to ensure that AI systems treat all individuals and groups impartially, without bias or discrimination across diverse population. Universality underscores the importance of developing AI systems that can provide effective outcomes for a broad range of users, but also refers to anticipate any obstacles, such as difference in clinical workflows, for example. Then we have traceability that involves keeping a transparent record of the data used to train the model, the algorithms implemented, and all the changes made. And it helps to ensure accountability, and it contributes to transparency. Then usability refers to the design of AI systems in a way that ensures they are accessible, user-friendly, and efficient, with the aim of providing a positive user experience. So healthcare professionals must be taken into account during the whole life cycle of AI systems. Then we have robustness that refers to the ability of an AI system to maintain its performance across diverse conditions. AI robust systems should be resilient to variations in input data, environmental changes, and intentional attacks. And finally, explainability refers to the capability to provide understandable explanations of their predictions. So we need to explain in what the AI model is fixing at. So AI models tend to be more and more complex, and it's necessary to address the black box problem. So explainability gives transparency, helps with accountability, and it also facilitates the identification of potential biases or errors in the system. So taking into account all these principles facilitate the development of trustworthy AI and facilitates the addressing of ethical challenges.
Now we're going to see a practical example of how data is managed in a large hospital, no? In this case, in La Fe Hospital in Valencia. So I would like to give the floor to Antonio Orduña, who is currently working as the head of information system security of La Fe Hospital in Valencia, Spain, where he is also the member of the ethics committee for health research. He holds a degree in computer science, a master's degree in software engineering, and another one in information systems security management. He's currently also involved in several European funded research projects, and his area of expertise is IT security and personal data protection. So Antonio, could you briefly explain the process of data sharing that you follow in La Fe Hospital? I assume that following all these instructions and things that have commented Magda and Susanna.
Yes, thank you, Ana Belén, for the introduction, and thank you to the organization for inviting me. This slide shows, or is the same about we are been talking in this session, but it has a different thing, a differentiation. We come from the clinic operations, from health assistance, and the evolution, the need of evaluate data and to take information has made evolve this set of boxes until the last one, the most important, the one who is related to this session, the research system for and data sharing. Well, all you know that in complex health systems, the daily operation produces a large amount of health data coming from healthcare processes and also from economic and clinic management processes, that, as you see in the slide. And you know also that the use of this information has become the cornerstone for the performance and development of healthcare services and also for medical research. We are regarding to medical research, healthcare institutions can provide lots of data to researchers and industry also. Let's think on clinical imaging, lab results, drug prescriptions, clinical reports, and so on. That all is what we put in this system. And obviously, it's a duty for us, for all of us, a duty to ensure the availability of this raw material in order they can reach their legitimate goals. The solution, how did we approach the solution? Well, it's founded on 3 different points, one technological, one on legal, and the other one organizational. We have to mix all them, and we have the data sharing system. Going deeper inside technology issues, the slide presented puts us into the scene. There must be different environments, logically and physically separated, to prevent data breaches and assure confidentiality to patients. Also, several daemons must be put in place. Daemons, the programs which execute automatically, must be put in place to have all repositories filled and all the data ready to be used. Think about processes such as data extraction, transformation and loading, the famous ETL, data replication, data codification, data anonymization, and so on. Also, there are many tailored processes, either manual or automated, to adapt information views or build new data sets to fulfill clinicians' and researchers' needs. Every time arise a need, IT department is involved in preparing data for this new project. Regarding legal and organization tasks, they must be developed by a multidisciplinary group of professionals in some kind of information management commission. That commission goes on data governance, and they have analyzed the legal framework and hospital processes to define data use and sharing policy, and develop new organizational processes to share information with investigators either inside the organization or outside. Within the model, we must be aware about confidentiality and security. If we focus on the anonymous data warehouse, the red one, which is exposed to the internet, it is the weakest side, and in addition of that data preparation, we must consider processes on data governance and a wrapper of security controls, either logical, physical, and organizational. And to ensure that security, that data security in all its dimensions, let's say availability, integrity, and confidentiality, clinics and research institutions must adopt a security model, such as ISO 27000 or the Spanish National Security Framework. Both security frameworks reels around those topics. First, a cyber risk management in information and communication technologies. Second, the deployment of a set of controls and measures for adequate protection of the information services and systems. And third, the continuous improvement cycle of the security management system, the famous Plan, Do, Check, Act. At the end of the day, data can be delivered to internal or external researchers from any data warehouse, any one we see in the boxes, to fit their project. And it will always depend of the level of authorization and their needs. And this is what, in first instance, I want to expose.
Well, we're going to ask more questions, but if you have any question, we will allow the last 5 minutes or so to answer your questions. And for those who are not in Madrid, you can send the questions through the Q&A box of Zoom, okay? So we're going to continue. Magda, for instance, how can healthcare organizations balance between ensuring patient data privacy and also enable the use of data for research?
Yeah, that is a challenging question, because we all discussed just exactly how many difficulties there are with applying GDPR in scientific research. And sort of, to be fair to the creators of the GDPR, they already anticipated that when they drafted this piece of legislation. So there are a number of provisions in the Act that that relate to scientific research. And there's even this concept of scientific exemption in using data for research. But the problem is that because there are so many provisions in this Act, they are not really consistent with each other. And plus we have these rules in each member state that are different. So I think the first sort of tip that I would have is to embrace that this is a challenging task, and sort of prepare yourself that to use that data, you're going to have to engage in some difficult discussions, engage legal experts, engage healthcare professionals, get into more details than maybe what you would think is only consistent with your expertise. So it is possible to find solutions. I am convinced of that, even with this very fragmented landscape that we have right now. But finding those solutions really requires dialogue. And there is no one person or no one group of people, not lawyers, not technical people, not researchers that have the solution. These solutions need to be developed together, and that is sort of the spirit of GDPR, to take the risks and then find the mitigations to those risks. And I think this diagram was very helpful in addressing how can that be done in practice. So that's the first sort of tip. The second one would be to also take time and invest in educating oneself in the challenges and the restrictions under GDPR. It's not the goal that we all become GDPR lawyers, but if we are to succeed in this very complex environment, we need to be aware of some basic concepts like anonymization, pseudonymization, what is personal data, what is meant by a data breach or a data protection impact assessment. If you are in this sphere, you're going to stumble upon these concepts. So it's I think, time well invested to try to understand them at the very beginning. So also you don't frustrate yourself that you cannot go on with your research as planned because of some restrictions that you weren't prepared to face in advance. And the third tip would be sort of alluding to the low-hanging fruits that Jana mentioned, that the way that data protection concept works, it applies to the whole cycle of processing data. So it starts at the very beginning when the data is collected. And when I work in the research projects, I come across different approaches, especially in the hospitals, to collecting the data of the patients. And some hospitals already, when the patient crosses the doors of a hospital and seeks medical assistance, think about reusing that data for scientific purposes. There might not be a project that is pending right now, but in the future, this data could be a valuable asset to use for retrospective studies. But to do that, you need to engage with the patient. You need to inform the patient. Sometimes you need to seek consent. That depends on the country. Again, that's not always possible. I'm not encouraging emergency rooms to ask the patients to sign off consent forms. But depending on the context, that can be a low-hanging fruit to solving many problems that we have because of this challenging framework.
Definitely.
So those are three very quick tips from my side.
Thank you, Magda. So, Susanna, you mentioned in your recommendation for a trustworthy AI, one of them was explainability. And given that we have here many healthcare professionals working in Spanish hospital here in Madrid, but also from other countries, could you provide, please, some examples of how this technique can benefit the clinical practice?
Okay, many AI approaches, such deep learning neural networks used in this kind of projects of medical imaging, uses millions of parameters, so making extremely difficult for humans to understand how the inputs are transformed into outputs. So the more complexity in AI models, the less understandable they are. So there are lots of techniques that can help us to address the explainable AI challenge, depending on different parameters. There are lots of taxonomies, but I think we can summarize all these taxonomies, classifying these methods in the following parameters. The first one is the scope. We can have global explainability or local explainability. We can also classify for the stage where we apply these XAI, explainable AI methods. We can have ante hoc methods or post hoc methods. And if we choose a post hoc method, we can find model-specific and model-agnostic tools. We can also classify this kind of methods depending on the input data we have. It's different than if we have medical image or we have tabular data or a combination of both. We can also classify these tools depending on the output format that we want. Maybe we want a graphic, or maybe we want an image or a numeric explainability. And finally, we can have tools that are classified by the type of problem that we have. Is not the same, the classification problem that a percentage of risk, for example. So each AI model requires a specific explainable AI tool, and it's necessary to involve healthcare professionals from the beginning to know their special needs, and then we must choose which is the best type of explainable AI tool that fits with our AI model.
Okay, thank you, Susanna. And one of the topics that we haven't commented so far yet is cybersecurity, and it's critical for the data sharing process. So what are the security controls that organizations must put in place in order to avoid cybersecurity attacks?
If you put the slide, you will see some of the inside. At the end, the ultimate purpose of information security is to ensure that an organization can fulfill its objectives and carry out its function or exercise its competencies using information systems. So we must consider a bunch of basic principles. One is security as an, you can read in the red box, security as an integral process, risk-based security management, prevention, detection, response, and conservation in the event of an attack, lines of defense, continuous surveillance, assessment and improvement of the security process, and make a differentiation in roles and responsibilities in the organization. And to assure those principles, we must state, all us,
The microphone, please.
all of us must state a security policy with minimum requirements, and you can see also in there, I think. We have implement asset management. We must implement access control. We must talk in the policy about cryptography. We must talk about physical and environmental security. We must also secure the operations of the systems, make procedures, change and capacity management, control of malware and vulnerabilities, log information, audit controls. Also, we must include in the policy something about communication security, policy, segregation, data encryption in transfer, and so on. And also is very important talk about business continuity management. What happens if something goes wrong and you can't use your systems? We know several examples in Spain and in the whole world. It's fundamental, is very important be able to keep on going, to back up, to restore all the data in the least time possible. And also, it's important because we must report to the protection, to la Agencia de Protección de Datos, the regulator of security on each country, incident management. If something happens, we must report it. So a process on incident management must be put in place.
Okay.
much more. It's important to say that all these can be based on ISO 27000 or either the Spanish National Security Framework. There are a bunch of measures very strong to protect the assets in organizations.
Okay, thank you. And now it's time if you have any questions to the speakers, for those who are here in Madrid, raise your hand. And I don't know if we have any question in the chat. Not yet? Okay, I can continue though asking questions. Yes, one from Jana. Sure.
I have a question for Antonio.
Please use the microphone for the attendant.
Thank you. I have a question for Antonio. Fe Polytechnic University Hospital is a very experienced entity in data management for many years, and cybersecurity and all the aspects that relate to data privacy. Through the different AI projects, we have been in contact with many types of hospitals, data providers, who are not always very experienced in creating data repositories that can be reusable. What would you advise these newcomers, let's say, to the space of data sharing? And could you please comment on how easy you think it is? Not easy in terms of work and time, but in terms of availability of technological components to set up a secure data sharing repository in a hospital that is not yet experienced with sharing data.
Yes, please use the microphone.
It's important to talk about environment segregation, operations by in a side and research environments in other. It's important also to aware them they must be aware about all legal complement. The first thing they have to do before they start a project is incorporate security and by default and in the moment of the design. Assessment of security, risk assessment, the famous DPIA, data protection impact assessment, but going further, because DPIA on GDPR is about citizens' rights. Going further, we must also include risk on cybersecurity, because it's a fact that in some time we will be attacked, and someone can come into our organization. So if you are aware about those risks, you can put in place measures to avoid those risks. That's risk management, common risk management. Also, it's important, that's why they have to, when they are thinking about data processing or any project, it's important the first thing they have to do is go and talk with IT people. IT people, well, maybe we are strange bugs, but when every day we are most approach to the common language, we have learned to speak better with the user. So it's important, because if a researcher talks with IT can tell him any tool. Tell him about any tool that he can use and he didn't even think about it, and that's my recommendation.
Do we have any other question? No? Okay, but oh yes, please.
My question is about the anonymization regarding to the right of the citizens that provide their data when the individual wants to recover the management of their data. How can the hospital or the repository remove the data of this individual when already the data is anonymized? I don't know if you have some solution for that problem.
So maybe from because I think this question has a legal component and a technical component. So very quickly from the legal side, if your data is anonymized under GDPR, the rights to request removal of the data or deletion of the data, modification does not apply. That's a very quick answer. The reality is much more complex because there is a category of pseudonymized data. So when there is a way to re-identify the patient link the data to the patient, then that data is pseudonymized, and then those rights apply. In practice, it's sometimes very difficult to differentiate between anonymized data and pseudonymized data. But I think now Antonio can maybe describe how he would approach it, because actually the scheme has very nicely put the identifiable data system, pseudonymized data system, and anonymized data system. So maybe I can ask Antonio to fill in.
My thought. When you have anonymized data, you can't answer to the patient because you don't know. And law and GDPR and Spanish law also says that you can't and you are not be punished because you can't delete the anonymized. But talking about pseudonymized data, when you prepare systems, you have to have the go back way of the pseudonym to identify, and this is a thing you have to think in the moment you are designing the system. This is security. This is a kind of security by design and by default. You have to a go back, and when someone asks you for the way of people can do exercise his rights behind the investigator. It's difficult when a citizen contacts with an investigator. The investigator can't. Maybe they don't know the real identity of the person, and even he is not able to re-identify. But there must be a process put in place that when this happens, investigator must go to IT or the figure you have put in place in your process to do that. And this is the way. We are not going deep on technical, but the organizational way of doing it is that. First, anonym data. It's impossible when you start the data, the people enrollment. You must inform them that if you are going to anonymize the data and donate to another repository or even in your own repository, and you must inform him, because he can take the decision in that moment if he is going to enroll or not, because he knows the whole condition. This is about transparency. And there are more considerations, but I don't know if you have enough information with my, yeah? Thank you.
Okay, well, you can continue now the discussion if you want in the coffee break that we are going to do now. We are running out of time, so thank you very much for all your contributions. We're going to stop now for 20 minutes. Please come back here at 12:30, and so enjoy the coffee break.